Hello, our listening audience. Um, the radio show had a horrible thing happen to them this past week. They took a direct hit from a lightning bolt, and so it knocked off our FM ability. So we are going to go internet broadcasting until the parts come in. And if it's anything like what I've run into or you guys, it takes a while to get the parts in. So please watch us on the internet and watch our shows, both Marie LaBrosse and myself, CJ Metcalfe, and we will try to entertain you the best we can on the internet. So,
Well,
um,
and CJ, they can listen if they have a smart speaker, which I'm going to have to unplug mine right now. They can call it whatever they want to. Say, Alexa, play WKDW 97.5 FM. It'll come on their smart speaker because that's internet based. So,
ah,
so any of you out there in today's world, you can listen to it on your phone. It's kdwradio.com. Listen to us, and you'll probably get a better signal anyhow. Uh, right, CJ? And CJ, what's the name of your show normally?
Making a Difference, where we interview people in the community and the differences they make in other people's lives.
And my show is Sleuthing Eye-Opening Tales of the Past, and it's about a person's history or the history of an area. And today, our guest is going to be Chris Constance, and we're going to be talking about his history and how he's affected the Charlotte County and me personally and CJ personally. So, CJ, I'll let you start this off and let's introduce who our guest is today, and let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, yes. Chris, come on into the broadcast. Marie and I are going to tear at you and pull you in pieces.
Well, how are you doing, ladies? Good morning.
Hello.
We're
Hello.
doing great, and we're up early, so thank you for that, Chris, because
No
Chris
problem.
actually, and I'm going to turn it over to CJ, but Chris is actually went into work early to, and he's a MD, he's a plastic surgeon, and we'll end up talking about that part of his life now a little bit, and then we'll go into his professional life a little bit later in the show. Now, Chris, I'm turning you over to CJ, but I know you so well, so I'm maybe popping in. So I'm going to take myself off screen,
Gotcha.
so people really don't have to listen to me butting in all the time.
We're
So
going to be
thank you.
watched.
And we'll be watched.
Well, thank you, Marie. I'm sure I'm in really good hands with CJ, so thank you.
Aw,
Okay.
thank you. Hey, if is it okay to call you Chris? I mean, you are such
Sure.
a personable gentleman. I just admire you to the max because you're 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 a touchable person. You know, oftentimes people in your field and with your background and education, you know, you get up on a pedestal and you become untouchable. And I personally, with my interactions with you, I have found you to be very reachable and very touchable. And every once in a while, maybe to grab a welcome hug. I mean, I of course I love that, but let's look at where you came from. Now, you were born in New York. Did I get that right?
That's correct. I was born in New York, raised in New York. My parents were both teachers, so they really stressed education and hard work. And I was always taught to respect my family members and people that we interacted with. So I was very fortunate, very stable household, and I went to public schools, graduated, and then I went to Johns Hopkins University. Spent 4 years in Baltimore, which was a great experience because I was with a lot of really smart people, got a great education, but also learned that there was more outside the world than just New York City. And so once I returned to New York, I went to medical school and did my general surgery training. and then was very, very fortunate. I know there's a big lottery out there today, but my lottery was getting accepted to fellowship at Penn State University for plastic surgery.
Right.
So
Wow.
I completed my studies there, and then I had a decision to make. It was interesting because managed care had just really bloomed in the early 90s, and a lot of job opportunities were drying up. And I realized that while central Pennsylvania was really beautiful, it was also, you could be guaranteed 80 inches of snow every winter. So coming from the Northeast and, knowing that I always had a penchant for moving to Florida, I made the decision. And, we looked at both coasts, and I had relatives in Hollywood and Newport Richey, and had spent some time in St. Pete Beach because we had some friends there. But I just decided the West Coast was my people, really down to earth. I liked Midwesterners. They were very honest and genuine. And so, I was very fortunate. I found Punta Gorda and opened my practice in 1994 and became a board certified plastic surgeon. And it's been wonderful. It really has.
Well, you have built quite a practice. I know we're going to get into all of that shortly, but some of the things I know for a fact that you immerse yourself into the community with doing undoctor things.
This is true. This is true.
The giving of yourself, it, in my world, that tells me a lot about a person when they give of themselves and they don't get paid for it. And, it's basically volunteering. And
Right.
I'll never forget my first encounter with you when it was a parade, and you were in the parade. Surprise, surprise, being patriotic, supporting the veterans. And I was having trouble with my float, which was right in front of you. And you just walked up and said, "Hey, you need some help there?" And I was like, yeah. And you just dove in. You just, man, put this here and put that there. You got everything. And you had to reach underneath and get into the dirty wheel well where you got your hands all soiled. But we got it done. Your float was done and my float was done. And I went home and found out that you were a plastic surgeon. And I was like, my God, he was sticking his hands up in the wheel well. They were coming out there, and you didn't think another thing of it. And I'm like,
No.
wow, that's what a guy, what a guy. And then it was another parade where you were quite a ways from where I was setting up, and you came turtle trotting across the parking lot and came around, and I thank goodness I was done with decorating my float, but you sat down on the pavement, the parking lot pavement, just sat down. We just sat in the shade and BS for a while. I was just like, good grief. How how cool is this? But and I know, like with the military museum, you were so wonderful there. We had a dinner for the volunteers. It was a celebration for all of the volunteers at the museum. And Chris brought a dish and got back behind the serving table and was serving people food. And I was like, how cool is that? Nobody asked him to do it. He just saw what needed to be done and he jumped in. I mean, I
Well,
like that.
well, CJ, first, let me say thank you for your service. And I think that, the veterans of this community, the veterans of this country, we have so much that we owe them in a debt of service for what they've done and what they do every day to protect us. So I go out of my way to do what I can do for veterans whenever I can. In my practice, I accept Medicare because I think the seniors should be taken care of. I accept TRICARE and all of the VA veterans insurances, and I accept Cigna because that's the county insurance. So I want to make sure that I'm taking care of the folks that are the backbone of our community and the backbone of our country. And all of the things that you talked about, I mean, it's just it's common sense. It's common courtesy, and I cooked up a a Greek rice pudding recipe, and I was proud of it, but I wanted people to try it because they're not really sure about it if they haven't had it before. And I think it was empty by the time I left the venue. So it was really good. And I enjoyed the music. The folks that put it on are great people. And, those volunteers deserve to be recognized. So it was a great event. It really was.
Yeah, awesome. Um, if I ask you questions and you don't
Sure.
want to answer them, I'm sure you know how to dance around them. But what is your heritage? What is your nationality originally?
Right. So I was born here. My parents were born here. My three of my four grandparents emigrated legally from Greece and Cyprus. So my heritage is Greek. Two of my grandparents come from the island of Cyprus, and two of my grandparents essentially come from Greece, the mainland, and so my parents met here. They were born here, and then that was in New York, and so that's my history. But yeah, and we've been back to visit several times. In fact, my cousin invited me back in 2019 to a destination wedding on one of the Greek islands, and I hadn't been back in 30 years, so I said, we're going. And we had a great time, and I said, it's so beautiful, I'm coming back every year. And then COVID hit. So we'll try to get back again, but yeah, that's
I have a personal statement when I come across Greek men. I don't call them just Greek. I call them juicy Greeks. Okay. Because there so many Greek people are just wonderful. They're just joyous and happy.
Let me tell you something. I volunteer at my church. My church is the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church, and we put on a Greek festival every year. And you'll always find me Saturday and Sunday on the dinner line, serving food, helping in the kitchen, moving things around. It's hard work, but it needs to be done, and it's our biggest fundraising event of the year. So, I make sure I'm available that weekend to pitch in and help out, and when we all, it's light work when everybody pitches in. So
send me a note when they're going to have that. I want to get that on my calendar because I'll be right there.
I love Greek food. It's usually in February, but I'll definitely let you know.
Okay. Well, you are very, very busy, but I'm sure there's some things that you like to do in your side time. I mean, are you a golfer? Are you a boxing fan? What do you do for your fun?
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, I really am. I'm a pretty busy guy. My practice takes up a lot of my time. I also have a job as an elected official, so I'm very, very busy. But I will say this, talking about volunteering time, I've been on a lot of hospital boards. I've been the president of the medical staff in Punta Gorda twice, and that's a 2-year term. I've been chief of surgery at the Port Charlotte Hospital and the Punta Gorda Hospital. I've decided to get on staff at Sarasota Memorial and the new Venice facility because I think it's really important to get involved. And I've done a lot of things to get on boards. I still sit on the Symphony, Punta Gorda Symphony board. I used to be on the blood bank board, and the Charlotte Players, as I got involved in productions back in the late 2000s. I think I was in like 4 or 5, and then got on their board. And the thing is, I try to get involved in things where I see there's a need, because I think it's important, and I encourage other folks, get involved, whether it's nonprofit boards or some of the different boards for the county. There's lots of things that you can do to participate for your community. And, with your effort, you help make the work easier. With your voice, you get more people understanding what's actually happening on the ground so that you can give good input and make sure good decisions are being made. So I highly encourage folks to just volunteer, whatever it is. We're fortunate. We're very blessed here. We live in a great place, but we have a lot of folks that are retired. And I don't think retirement means just sitting out on your back porch all day. I would like to see more people get involved in the community and volunteer. And, maybe, we have a lot of younger families that have a lot of issues paying for and affording childcare. Maybe the idea is to set up a core of retirees, maybe when the cultural center gets reopened, to help out and take a little bit of time each. But if there's a lot of folks doing it, they've got a daycare center that's free for the folks in the community. So I'd really like to see more people stepping up to help out. That's who we are. That's who we are as Americans.
Well, and stepping out to help our community, such as you do, you meet a lot of people. Your social circle will expand
That's
because
right.
if two people are put on a project together, your personalities come out in order to accomplish that task. And who knows, you may like that person, they may become one of your best friends. And also, it is self-rewarding to
Absolutely.
participate in things. It I don't I don't do it for the image of it. I do it because it's self-rewarding. When I get up of a morning, I say, why did I get up today? What is my purpose?
Hmm.
And my purpose, I feel, is to make a difference in other people's lives. So that's
Absolutely.
that's and that's
I
also
can
the
I
name of
can
my
I can tell you a story about a gentleman who was a patient of mine, and elderly fella, and his wife passed away, and he was devastated. This is
Mm.
probably 15 years ago, and I actually went to his house to check up on him, and he was very down and very depressed. I said, "Listen," I said, "you've got to get out. Go to the hospital and volunteer. Get involved in something. Don't just sit here and and wallow in your misery. Yes, it's terrible. It's been a great loss, but would your wife really want you to be doing this right now, or would she want you to get going?" And he
Mhm.
did that. And I ran into him probably 3 or 4 months later, and he thanked me. I think it was in the supermarket. He thanked me for making that effort. And I think we need to do more of that, because there's a lot of single seniors. There's also a lot of folks that are new down here, that are single, and they come in and they barely know their neighbors. The best thing you can do is get involved in an organization, a volunteer organization, whether it's Rotary or Kiwanis, or volunteering at the hospital or United Way or whatever it is. But there are dozens and dozens of nonprofits that you can help your community. And you're exactly right, CJ. It will give whatever you put in, you're going to get back 2 and 3 times as much. You really do.
That's
It's
right.
amazing.
That's right. Yeah. Well, do you golf or do you bowl or do you do any
I
sports
do, I do, I
activities?
do everything poorly. I play, I play tennis. If I had enough time to play golf, I might be good. But I only play 2 3 times a year. But I play tennis. Occasionally go bowling. I like to swim. I think that's my form of exercise. I really enjoy swimming. I swam when I was in high school. Um, and yeah, I have a few physician friends who play tennis, and we go out every once in a while and hit the ball. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Where do you like to play?
I have one friend where we've played at the Isles Yacht Club, some of the other places, but I have a tennis court where I live, so I'm popular with some of the guys, because they know we can always get a court.
Oh, oh yeah. Oopsie poopoo doo doo doo. Oh, do you and your staff and let's talk about your staff and let's talk about your family. You have children, right?
I do.
And are they going to school? Are they in college?
Well, I have three that are out. My oldest is still sort of finding himself. My second child, my son Dan, is graduated from Full Sail, and he's developer, designer, does software type stuff and programming. And then Nicole just graduated from the Ringling College of Art and Design, so she's a motion specialist for
Wow,
digital
it,
animation.
it
Yeah.
runs in the family to be hmm, step up a little bit.
Well, my dad was an artist, and my mom was an and an art teacher, and my mother was a math professor. So I, I guess that's what the basis of sort of where I picked my career path.
Well, I know you're an accomplished surgeon. Okay, that's a given. But a lot of people don't realize that d- in order to have the medical doctorate degree,
Mm-hmm.
um, you yourself, your life job is to teach. You teach people about conditions. You explain it to them in a way that they can understand. In order to keep, I believe you have CEUs you have to keep up also, right?
Yeah, there's this CMEs, continuing medical
CME.
education credit. Yeah,
Yeah.
CMEs. And you're right. I mean, we teach new surge tech students, and all the guys in the OR. There's constantly students coming through, but I think honestly, I spend most of my time teaching patients because they've
Right.
never gone through their condition before,
Right.
and I think most of the problems that occur in medicine, all of the problems that occur in medicine, happen because there's a lack of communication between the doctor and staff, doctors and nurses, doctors and doctors, doctors and patients. So it's critically important that you spend the time with the patients to make them understand what their issues are and how to, improve the issues, what's good, what's bad. And, most everything can be corrected when you take the time to explain to the patients what's going on.
Well, you do it in a very understanding way, the gentle voice, and you don't do that authoritative of here's the details and now don't ask any questions. Your 5 minutes is up. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, you're just wonderful. But that's you coming out even when you work with your patients.
Yes.
We know you have knowledge and experience behind you, and we know that you work in the community, and you just have to be a good guy, right? That's the way I see
Well,
it.
you
He
have
just
to.
has to be good.
I mean, it's really important. You've got to connect with your patients. You've got to make them feel comfortable. You can't. They're already coming in a little bit apprehensive, and so the trick is you've got to make sure that they are just comfortable. Because if they're not, they don't really hear you. They're afraid. So you've got to warm them up and make them feel relaxed. And you're just a normal person who wants to help them, and then their ears open up.
If you had one thing, I'm about ready to run out of time here, but if you had one thing that you wanted to accomplish in your life, what is your dream? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? What do you want to be known for?
Wow, I don't think I've ever thought on those in those terms or on that scale. I mean, I think I've been very blessed, CJ. I knew from a very young age I wanted to be a physician. I had a loving grandmother, my dad's mom, who took care of me a great deal, and I got this idea in my head early on that I wanted to be a surgeon. And she said to me, "You're not going to be a surgeon. You're going to be president of the United States." So, she was always sort of pushing these high ideals. But I'm really happy being a surgeon. I really enjoy helping people, and again, I'm blessed because I figured out what I wanted to do early on in life. So I found that career goal early, and the trick with kids is to have them find their purpose, because without purpose, life is really, really rough. And if you find your purpose, then you're not looking for drugs. You're not looking for other things that will fulfill you. You're already being fulfilled with, the fact that you're doing what you enjoy doing. So when I talk to children, I ask them, what do they enjoy doing? Not what do they want to be when they grow up? What do they enjoy doing? Because that's what you should do, because you're going to be doing that the majority of your waking hours for the rest of your life. So you should be deriving pleasure from it, and you should be accomplishing, because that feeling of fulfillment is a wonderful thing. And we need to do more of that. We need to do more introduction of careers to kids so that they have an idea of what's out there, instead of looking at their device where they're just, their
Right.
heads are in there watching videos. We've got to get them with people that really enjoy what they're doing, to get them excited about this career or this job. So when they're leaving school, they leave job ready. It's great if they're ready for college and that's what they want to do when they grow up, but we really need them job ready, and not just ready to apply for a job, but they're already doing the job. The
Right.
norm
Right.
should be, when I ask a kid, what are you doing? What are you doing when you graduate? Oh, I'm doing it already. I'm working at the mechanic shop right now. And in my afternoons after school, I go and watch them work on engines, and I'm helping out. And as soon as I'm done, I've already got my certifications. I'm going to be working there, and then they're going to help me get more certifications. And yeah, this is what I want to do. I've known it for the last few years. I saw somebody with a PowerPoint come to school, and it was great. And we need to do more of that. We need to grow our own workforce here, because they're not going to come. We need to grow them from our kids. And so the business community has to be involved with the schools, and we've got to make it happen.
Well, at this point, we're going to turn the tables over to Marie LaBrosse and her Sleuthing Tales of the Past, and she's going to get into a little bit of more of your professional life and the things you do. He keeps smiling at us. Well, he's got his two favorite people here. So
there you go.
Hey, Marie, what's going to be his first question?
Well, I'm actually not going to ask him a first question, because I have to talk about his personal life before we go on to even his professional life, because Chris and I go back a long ways, and we have done a lot of things together. And one of the things is, back in 2012, he and I were at a ball game and I actually am the chair for the Murdoch Village CRA right now. But at that time, I was on the CRA, and we were at a ballpark at the, what do you call that? The Charlotte Stadium. Sports Park. And we were sitting there, and I had just done my first time ever doing improv, and it was on a stage in New York. And I figured, if I can do that, anybody can. And I threw this wacky idea to Chris. He and I are sitting in the ballpark, and I go, Chris, I was thinking about this, about doing improv, and I figured, if I could do this, if I could get members of the community, teach them improv and throw them up on the stage to raise money for the Charlotte Players Kids on Stage in the Imagination Library. What do you think about that? He said, I'm in, because that's who Chris is. And with that endorsement of him saying that, then I knew, if I have Chris on board, I can get anybody on board. So we ended up creating Comedy for a Cause at that time. And I had Candace Cole, who was the director at that time. And Chris ended up, because people don't understand improv, you do have to learn how to react. And it's a yes-and game. But because if you're an actor, you memorize lines. With improv, you don't memorize, but you do learn how to react. What you can do and what you can't do when you're doing improv to get some laughs out there. So Chris ended up learning how to do it and ends up being the director. And I'm going to show an old cast thing here. Chris is actually with one of the old casts, and I'm trying to think this was 2017 or 2016. And
I think that's Donna Barrett and Jim Finch.
Yeah, Denise Stowe, Alexia Martin, Dennis Valentino, and Carrie James is in there. And there would have been other people in this. I think this is when Wayne Saladay was with them too, wasn't he? I can't recall.
It might have been the year before. He might have been the year before. But my version of the story is that she asked me, "Do you think it's a good idea?" And I said, "No, it's not a good idea. It's a great idea, and I want to be in your cast."
Yeah, and the really thing is still today, and this is the 10th year. Chris is a director. He does this volunteer-wise too, people. I just want people to realize all these people do this volunteer to give back to the community. The money raised for it goes towards the Kids on Stage program with the Charlotte Players and the Imagination Library and some other things that happen. But these are nonprofit organizations that Chris has done. Now, I have to tell you another story too, CJ, as long as we're here. the Punta Gorda Block Party, it happens almost every year. There was a couple of years that they took off, but I was always in charge of doing the children's block portion when I was with the players, and I was the president of the Charlotte Players at one time. But to go back to this, Chris volunteered to come and help me face paint. And let me tell you, and how many people...
She's going to bring this story up.
How many people do you know that even will go and attempt to face paint? He and I are not professional face painters, but we have the material and we kind of know how to do stuff. And I did have to bring this up because my husband was coming help setting up stuff, and he was there for some reason, and he comes up to me behind me, and I'm doing little kids, and he says, he didn't know Chris at that time, and he goes, the guy that's working with you, he could be like a surgeon. He has such a steady he is a plastic surgeon. And I go, that's crazy, because that tells you the type of character that Chris has in his heart. He doesn't do these things to tell people, oh, look at who I am. That's who he is. Yeah. He always, truthfully, of all the people that have ever had volunteer with me, Chris is always there. He's always there helping volunteer. And I can tell you, I have volunteered. I've lived here 35 years now. Out of all the people that I have had volunteer with me, Chris is number one in my book. Truthfully, he's always there for me. No, let's talk a little bit about...
Before you go on, I'm going to plug the show September 9th, and I'm going to go through the cast really quick. We have Ron Bates, the graphic artist. We have Justin Brand and Ashley Marr from the Community Foundation. We have Matt Bukosk from Remax Realty. We have Jamie Jones from Charlotte Chamber. Blair Lovejoy. We have Dave Robbins from Punta Gorda Waffle House, and we have a good friend of mine, Jim Teetsworth, the ophthalmologist, as well as Darcy Woods. And that's it. So we've got 9 people so far.
Well, let me tell you, that's a great cast, because I think just the one ophthalmologist is the only person I don't think I know out of that cast. What a great cast. And if you've never gone, it'll be at the Charlotte Harbor Event Center on that date.
September 9th.
Yeah, you'll get to see Chris actually call the games and interact with the people. And, that's what a community leader looks like. Truthfully, Chris is the one that steps up and does this. He doesn't have to do this, people. He doesn't have to go up and take the time. And every Monday right now, you guys are rehearsing at the Charlotte Players, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And he's taking time out of, this is a plastic surgeon, plus he's right now a county commissioner, but he takes the time out of his busy life to do this, to give back to the community. So kudos to you, my friend. Kudos.
My friend too.
Yeah, he's your friend too. Let's go ahead, because I've known Chris for a long time. I want to talk about another situation a lot of people may not know about, because in Punta Gorda, the Punta Gorda History Center, History Society would put on occasionally the Centennial History play once in a while. And I was actually involved in that at that time. And there was a problem that we needed to bring in Chris last minute to be the conductor and to learn the lines and to do that. And you learned it in, I think, 3 days.
It was a shock to the system, Marie. I was just constantly reading the script, and I'll be honest, there were times where I figured I could put some of the script in places the audience couldn't see, so I could have the lines in front of me, because it was just so much to learn in such a short period of time. But I pulled it off. People afterwards said, you you learned it all. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure.
Sure did, yeah.
Sure I did.
I'm not telling you any
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, yeah, people don't know. Even if you flub a line, unless you know the script, you don't know. And you did such an excellent job and character and costume and that, and you stepped up. And that's another thing that you wouldn't have had to do. The community needed you, and you stepped up and you did something like that. Of all, I couldn't have done it. I know that I wouldn't have been able to do it, but I can't memorize. So enough about me. Let's talk about you, about other things that are going on too. Because in your professional life, a lot of times there's only two of you plastic surgeons in Charlotte County, correct?
That's true.
And you get called all the time at all hours of the night, even. Because of an emergency that happens. Now, let's talk about something that a lot of people may know about that just happened recently. The guy that got bit by the alligator up in Northport, correct? Right. And how did that happen?
Well, apparently he was. It was the middle of the night. He was went out to smoke a cigarette, and he heard some growling, and then this alligator had found its way from a water feature into the central square of the motel and lashed out at him, bit his leg, and ran away. And luckily for him, the police were right there for a different reason. Got him to the hospital. I got called, and so we attended to him and did dressings because the gator bites are very dirty, and so we did some dressings for a day, making sure we killed all the bacteria, and then I took him to surgery the second day and reconstructed his leg, and he's doing pretty well.
Ooh. And he's not the only person that you've had to do these different emergencies from.
Oh, he's the first person ever in my 28 years here in Florida in my career. He's my first gator bite. But no, I've dealt with rattlesnake bites, and I've dealt with numerous dog bites, and all kinds of injuries, car injuries, slip and fall. I mean, people get hurt, and when it's their face, I'm usually the one that gets the panic phone call from the emergency doc, because it's, I do more of this, so I'm better at it, and they just don't have the time. Some of them can do a pretty good job, but if they spend 2 or 3 hours with one patient, that's 15 or 20 patients they don't see. So they can't, there's an efficiency of time. They can't afford that time. So they rely on us.
Very interesting, because we really haven't talked that much. You and I haven't talked that much about your professional life on the surgery end of it. No, I know that you do other types of plastic surgery, but I really want to stress to people too that you do cancer surgery too, correct?
Yeah, 50% of my practice is aesthetic, cosmetic stuff, facelift, eyelids, tummy tucks, breast reductions, but then breast reconstructions, skin cancer reconstructions, hand surgery, trauma stuff, facial fractures, nasal fractures. Yeah, there's a lot of cancer stuff we do.
Yeah, and is there anything that you've ever run across that you go, oh man, this is really bad? Well, I'm sure you have. Yeah. I know that my husband would pass out even seeing the blood. So you have to not be squeamish either when you're dealing with this, because you're looking at it as a job, or how do you look at it?
Well, I think you can't look at the whole person. I mean, obviously I do, and I see that they're in pain and distress and they need help, but you have to become laser focused on what the issue is and how are you going to reconstruct that part of their body. So it becomes a very scientific, sort of mechanical, anatomical procedure. You know where things are supposed to go, the principles behind, anesthetizing it so that they're not in pain, then cleaning things up really well. I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that are made, that that the wounds are not properly cleaned before they're repaired. Because if you do that right, people generally heal very well, and then you put them in antibiotics. But you've got to spend enough time and thoroughly clean those wounds. Otherwise, you're going to have infection, and you're going to have skin loss, and you're in a worse shape than you were when you first got there. So,
very good points to actually bring up, because in our household, my husband had been in a snowmobile accident that he went over a place, and the spark plug things went through his knee portion. Oh. And he ended up getting the fibers of the snowmobile suit that he had in there. They didn't clean it properly. We almost lost him because of the infections. And I think that's why he ends up really fighting infections today. And that was many years ago. But you're correct. Well, of course you're correct. That's what you do for a living. But for our regular audience to know, and in case you're just tuning in, we're WKDW 97.5 FM, Real Community Radio. We come out of Northport. You can listen to us online on kdwradio.com. We'll be streaming this on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on the WKDW 97.5, on Making a Difference, on my own personal pages, on the radio stations, WKDW 97.5. So you can pick up this information any place that you want to. And I really hope that our audience actually looks at the man, Christopher Constance, because things are coming up and I'm going to talk not specifically about you on the election, but I want to talk about the new ballot that's out, because a lot of people don't know that the rules have changed about registering for voting per se, where you had to send in every year now for an or vote by mail. They change it from absentee vote to vote by mail, and the deadline date is over. So you can't even do that right now. And there's a few things I have in our house.
Marie, can I correct you? You for the primary, you had to register to vote by the 25th. So that's over. You can still elect to receive an absentee ballot.
Yeah. Okay.
Anytime you want. I mean, as you get closer to the election, you have to fill it out and then walk it in, because if it arrives in the mail the day after the election, it doesn't count. So as you get closer, you just have to make sure you bring it to the supervisor of elections. They have a very nice box. There's somebody monitoring it, and you just pop it in the slot.
I'm glad that you corrected me on that, because so many people, and we did a show, I was helping tech another show for the city of Northport people, and they didn't realize that they had to actually ask for their vote by mail again this year. And that's one of the rules that have been changed, that you have to ask for it every year. And in our house, we're Republican and Democrat. So we're dinos and rhinos, depending on how you look at it here. But I wanted to actually, one's the Republican Party here and one's Democratic Party. I don't know. Yeah, I got to go like this here for ballots. And I wanted to let people know, because so many people are not aware that there's some universal races that you only get in this primary race to vote for these, and it is not going to the November race. Am I correct on this, Chris?
That's right. It's an open primary. So basically every office that's in contention is able to be voted on by every single voter. These are not closed primaries, but you're correct. I think every one of these races, with the exception of the governor's primary on the Democratic ballot, that's it. Whoever wins this election, that's the office. So everybody that's being voted on now, this is the election. You won't see them again in November. It'll be decided August 23rd.
Now, is this for just the state, or do these apply nationwide?
This is in the state of Florida, and in our area. the majority or all of our state representatives were unopposed. So it just seems like there aren't any NPAs or Democrats or write-in voters. So since most of these races are all Republican or it's an NPA race, that's it. However it's decided, it's the primary.
Yeah, no party affiliations in case anybody's wondering what the MPA stands for. And United States Senator, Governor, and Lieutenant Governor, and Attorney General, and Commission. Those three are just on the Democratic one because they have different people running, and that'll be in the November one that they'll be running against a Republican at that time. The Commissioner of Agriculture is on both too, because there's a Republican and a Democrat running. But these are the ones that are universal, that you have to vote for now. You're not going to get a second chance. And that's the Board of County Commissioners, District 2, Board of County Commissioners, District 4, and your Airport Authority, District 2, and also your school board member. Now, there are different candidates, but I wanted to critically let people know you got to vote this time. This is the time that you got to vote, and voting is open now, right, Chris, that you can go in and do your early voting?
No. You can still, right now it's vote by mail. Early voting starts August 8th, and that's for two weeks, August 8th to the 21st. Then there's no voting on the 22nd, and then Election Day is the 23rd. And
the voting places that you can go for early voting, I know, is the library.
Mid-County Library,
right?
The old courthouse where the supervisor is in Punta Gorda, and the West County Annex on Sandcastle.
Over in the Englewood area.
But what's neat about it is you could live in Punta Gorda and vote in West County if you want to. It doesn't matter where you live. You can go to any one of those places, show them ID, they'll look you up in the database, find you, and then print your specific ballot, and you can vote right there. On Election Day, you better show up at the correct precinct. And if there's a long line at your precinct, you're waiting in a long line. So voting early or voting by mail is usually the best way to go.
One of the things that I have run across, and I don't know how much Charlotte County is, even though I live in Charlotte County, and I was a precinct clerk at one time. Believe it or not, I was actually a precinct clerk for quite a while. And I look back and I was younger and I was really busy, but I was a precinct clerk for probably 4 or 5 years at that time. And I was really, really busy, but I took the time to do a civic duty of taking that day off. And it's a long day. Those people are there normally from 6:30 in the morning getting set up before the voters come in. And then when you're the precinct clerk, you got to take those ballot boxes and everything down to the supervisor of elections office to drop them off for them to count. If you've never been through that process, or if you're looking for a volunteer where you're seeing a volunteer position, although you do get a stipend, you do get paid for doing that, they are always looking for precinct help. Correct? Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think Supervisor Stamoulis has done an amazing job. He runs an incredibly tight ship, and I've been privileged to work on the canvassing board, I think 2012, 2016, 2018, and I think 2 years ago. So, you know, he and the is one of the other members and one of the county judges, but that room that tabulates the ballots, they are, they're on it. They know what they're doing. He runs a very tight ship. There are no odd votes cast in Charlotte County. He really runs tight security, and his people are dedicated. He does a fantastic job. So we're very blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was also in the play, and
That's right.
Yeah, and he played Big Red.
That's right.
Let me tell you, Everybody missed a treat. And those are people that give back. And he also goes around dressed in costume and that to educate our students about different characters within the history of this country too.
You know,
So
you just reminded me there was an event where I played Baron Collier. You know, everybody was a character from history. I remember that.
yes, and I was a character in that one too, and that was for the Punta Gorda History Center. It was
That's
at the Charlotte Harbor Event Center, and Chris played Baron Collier. And in case you don't know the history of that, you need to actually look it up. Baron Collier had a lot of influence around this whole area. Very wealthy man.
That's why there's a whole county named after him.
Right. Collier County, yeah, and Usepa Island. I mean, you really do the research. That's why my one show I do about history, and I do history of the Baron Colliers or the different people in the area and that. Chris, anything last that you'd like to say to our audience? Because I know that it's so critical for people to go out to vote this time, and I just want people to understand, look into the character of the person that you're voting to. Do your own research. Don't be looking at all this stuff that comes in the mail. Like I said, we're a house divided on what side that we're on within my own household. But I'm considered a rhino and my husband's a dino. We vote what our conscience is and do whatever you want. But stop with the name calling. Stop with looking out there. Look at the character of the person.
I think the voting is the one thing that separates us from the rest of the world, because essentially our elections are open and free. And I always think about all of those individuals that gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we could be free Americans. And we need to respect that sacrifice. So everyone needs to vote. Everybody needs to vote, and not just in the general election. The primary decides who's in the general election. And in this case, the primary decides who wins. There is no general election. So think about August 23rd is November, and pay back those sacrifices. Take a little bit of time, do a little bit of research, and vote. Make sure you vote. It's so important, because we really need people to step up and let their voices be heard. And I don't think that happens enough. And if you don't exercise your right to vote, someday it might get taken away from you. So make sure you do.
Absolutely. And we'd like to end the show by saying to our audience, there are choices in life that you can be, to be kind or not to be kind. Always please choose kindness. And CJ, thank you for coming in and co-hosting both of us today. Chris, Constance, what a pleasure always to have you on our shows within in our area, and for everything that you do. CJ, I want to end this show with playing your little tune here.
Because
ladies,
that
thank you
applies
so much.
to Chris. It really does.
This applies to Chris.
Yeah, so we dedicate it to Chris.
Act right now. We are here. And make a difference. We are here.
Thank you, everyone.